She didn't think losing you would hurt until you were actually gone. Let that line sink in. Because this isn't just about silence. It's about how your absence taught her more than your presence ever did. Welcome to Stoic Station, where we don't chase love. We master ourselves inside it. If you're ready to stop being the man who gets taken for granted and start becoming the man no one forgets, then start this journey now. Like this video, subscribe to Stoic Station, but let me ask you something real. Have you ever been so consistent, so available, so grounding, that she mistook your presence for permanence? You didn't raise your voice. You showed up. You didn't play games. You stayed. But when she started assuming you'd never leave, you did. Quietly, completely, without warning. And that's when everything shifted. Because people don't panic when noise disappears. They panic when rhythm breaks, when the steady pattern they relied on vanishes. Not out of anger, but out of evolution. And if you've ever wondered what she feels when control slips through her fingers, you're about to find out. Drop a 1 in the comments if your silence ever shook her more than your words. Drop a 2 if you're in that silence right now, because this isn't just about going quiet. It's about becoming untouchable. And what comes next is the moment she realizes the map she used to navigate your world has collapsed. Let's begin. 1. Control collapses. She didn't lose you. She lost the map she used to navigate your presence. You used to move in patterns, familiar, reassuring ones, a message in the morning, a check-in at night, a rhythm she could rely on, like the steady ticking of a clock she thought would never stop. That predictability wasn't just comfort, it was her anchor. Your presence gave her a sense of emotional gravity, one where she felt safe, desired, and quietly in control. But then, you disappeared. Not with an argument, not with a dramatic exit, just silence. No warning, no final words. And in that stillness, something ruptured, not just between you and her, but inside her. Because your silence wasn't an absence. It was a void, and voids don't just sit quietly. They pull. They pull at her certainty, her pride, her assumptions about you always being there. At first, she tells herself it's nothing. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you're giving her space. She repeats it until the words sound convincing. But beneath the surface, panic grows. Because what if this time you're not circling back? What if your silence isn't a pause, but a decision? She doesn't fear losing you the way most think. What terrifies her is losing her grip on what she believed she controlled. Because when you stopped reaching out, you didn't just vanish from her life. You broke the pattern, and with that you broke the spell. So ask yourself, did you disappear to punish her or to reclaim your peace? Because there comes a moment in every man's journey when he realizes he no longer owes the world an explanation for choosing stillness over chaos. And when a woman senses that shift, it's not rejection she feels first, it's powerlessness. 2. Empty space, heavy weight. What replaces you isn't noise. It's a hollow silence that follows her everywhere, like a shadow she can't shake. From the outside, she seems fine. She still laughs in conversations, still posts filtered smiles, still tells people she's just taking time for herself. But underneath the surface, the stage is empty. Everything she does now feels like acting, like holding up a version of herself that doesn't quite feel real anymore. Her coffee tastes different, though the brand hasn't changed. Her favorite songs feel off, though the lyrics are the same. It's not the world that's shifted, it's what's missing from it. You. Because it's never your absence that hits first. It's the continuation of your absence. The fact that each day you don't return adds weight to the stillness. And that weight grows, not from drama or chaos, but from how deeply you had become part of her peace. You weren't just a routine, you were her grounding presence. You didn't chase, you anchored. You didn't demand attention, you gave calm. And when you left, it wasn't a door slamming shut. It was the quiet opening of space that now feels unbearable. She doesn't miss a message. She misses the meaning behind the man who sent it. That space you left behind wasn't accidental. It was built through consistency, honesty, and presence. And now it echoes through the little things she used to take for granted. So ask yourself, in your silence, are you truly rebuilding yourself? Or are you simply waiting for her to feel the emptiness? Let this silence be your workshop, not your weapon. Let it sculpt your clarity while hers crumbles. Because some men disappear to be chased, but the rare few disappear to transform. 3. Obsession awakens. Curiosity always arrives quietly, at first. Just a passing thought, a casual glance. But when your silence lingers long enough, that curiosity begins to build its own momentum. And before she realizes it, she's not just thinking about you, she's consumed by the mystery you've become. She scrolls through your last conversation, not to read your words, but to study them, searching for anything she might have missed. Was there a clue, a change in tone, a hesitation she ignored? She replays your voice notes, not to hear your voice, but to feel your energy again. She checks your online status, then checks again, hoping for a trace, a story view, a like, a misstep, but you leave nothing, not a ripple, just stillness. In a world addicted to reaction and visibility, your silence doesn't just confuse her, it mesmerizes her. Because it breaks the pattern. You're not trying to make her jealous. You're not signaling pain. You're not leaving doors half open. You've gone still in a way most men can't sustain, and that's what rattles her the most. She doesn't understand how you haven't cracked, how you can disappear without broadcasting it, why there's no anger, no chase, no proof that you're even hurting. That's when obsession takes hold, not with the past, but with the unknown. And the unknown is always more haunting than the familiar. So ask yourself, are you silent to manipulate or to mature? Are you becoming less visible or more sovereign? Because here's the paradox. When you stop needing to be seen, you start to become unforgettable. Not because of what you did, but because of what you refused to prove. 4. The mirror appears. There always comes a night when the noise fades, the scrolling stops, and even obsession loses its grip. That's when the silence stops being about you and starts becoming a mirror, not the one she shows the world, polished and curated, but the one she keeps buried beneath the performance. The mirror that doesn't flatter, the one that tells the truth. She begins to see the patterns, the moments she dismissed your presence because it was too steady, the times she tested your patience, not out of curiosity, but to prove she could. She remembers the consistency you offered, not with grand gestures, but in quiet loyalty. The way you gave without asking, stayed without needing to be begged, and listened without waiting for your turn to speak. And now, with no more messages to replay, no new signals to decode, she sits in the only echo that remains, her own reflection. The care you gave doesn't feel ordinary anymore. It feels rare, sacred, and for the first time, the question she's avoided begins to speak louder than her pride. Did I push away someone who never wavered? This isn't regret, because she lost control. It's regret because she mishandled something real. And here's the part you must understand. Your silence isn't cruelty, it's clarity. You didn't raise your voice, you raised your standards. And that shift leaves her with no one else to blame. So ask yourself, can you remain still long enough for her to confront what she tried to avoid? Because real reflection doesn't come when you explain. It comes when she finally feels the cost of what she chose to take for granted and knows there's no undo button. 5. The bait drops. She reappears, but not with accountability and not with honesty. She doesn't come back with open hands. She comes back with signals, small, strategic, and intentional. A like on an old photo you forgot was even there. A late night, just wondering how you've been. A story posted that seems tailor-made for you. But this isn't softness, it's surveillance. It's not a real reach, it's a radar test. She's not asking for reconnection. She's asking, are you still orbiting me? And here's where most men fall, because the bait doesn't look like bait. It looks harmless, almost innocent. But the moment you respond, when you answer that subtle pull, you teach her that your silence wasn't strength, it was strategy, and that confirmation, that tells her she still holds a piece of you. But when you remain still, when you don't react to the soft hooks she casts into your emotional waters, something in her begins to shift. Because your silence is no longer just the absence of sound, it's become a filter. It doesn't only block out the noise, it shows you what was never real in the first place. She doesn't want to reconnect yet. She wants to see if she can. And that's not intimacy, it's control. So ask yourself, will you trade your clarity for a crumb of nostalgia? Will you reward games with your full presence? Because every time you ignore the bait, you increase your value. Every time you remain unmoved, you remind both her and yourself that your peace is no longer available at the price of being just enough for someone else's attention. 6. Freedom turns sour. She told herself she needed space. That distance would bring clarity, perspective, maybe even peace. But space without depth isn't healing, it's just empty. And it doesn't take long for that emptiness to stretch into something heavier, a quiet, creeping loneliness that no one around her seems to notice. But she can't escape. So she tries to fill the space, not with someone better, not even someone meaningful, just someone available, someone who will reply fast, smile often, show up when called. But availability is not the same as presence. And the difference hits hard, because no one steadies her like you did. No one listens through her silence the way you did. No one matches the calm you carried when she couldn't carry herself. At first, she called it freedom. Now it feels more like floating, unanchored, unprotected. The kind of freedom that makes her question if she ever knew what safety really felt like until you went quiet. And that's the irony. She didn't appreciate your presence until she felt the full weight of your absence. And now, that realization doesn't soothe her, it stings. This is the moment where many men break. When she finally begins to see what she lost, when her tone softens and her eyes speak what her pride once buried, you may feel the pull to return, to rescue, to soften the ache. But that ache is the teacher. That ache is the very consequence that gives your silence meaning. So ask yourself, are you returning to be valued or to be needed? Because when she learns to call regret by its real name, your job isn't to make her feel better. It's to keep walking as the man she only recognized once he was gone. 7. She plays the game. When silence doesn't bring you back, she switches tactics, not to reconnect, but to provoke. Suddenly, her feed fills with images of her laughing beside someone new, carefully chosen captions about loyalty or knowing your worth, song lyrics that land like subtle jabs. None of it is random. Every post is curated, calculated, designed not to express emotion, but to extract it from you. She's not trying to heal, she's trying to regain control. What she wants isn't your return, it's your reaction, a comment, a view, a slip-up. anything to prove that the silence she now sits in still holds emotional power over you. Because as long as she can get under your skin, she still feels close to you, even if only through chaos. But this time, you don't flinch, you don't respond, not because you're cold, but because you're not in that arena anymore. That emotional battlefield where pride was currency and silence was punishment. It no longer holds your attention. You've stepped out, and she senses that. Because now, when she swings at your ego, she doesn't find fire, she finds stillness. The kind that unnerves, the kind that says you're no longer accessible on that level. Ask yourself, can you witness the bait without needing to bite? Can you see through the manipulation without needing to expose it? Because real strength isn't in proving you're above the game, it's in refusing to play at all. And when your silence becomes peace instead of punishment, you don't just change the rules, you end the game. 8. Silence solidifies. At first, she thought your silence was a phase, a mood, a form of emotional push and pull meant to make a point. She assumed it would pass like a cold front, uncomfortable but temporary. But over time, something began to shift. The silence didn't weaken, it deepened. It didn't carry tension, it carried calm. And in that calm, something undeniable revealed itself. This wasn't a pause, this was closure. You didn't just pull back to prove something. You stepped away because you no longer needed to be part of a conversation that only echoed the same old patterns. What she once viewed as a strategy now feels like a wall she can't climb, not because you blocked her, but because you no longer stand on the same emotional ground. She doesn't just miss the man you were, she misses the access she once had to you, the unfiltered version who showed up, stayed available, and kept giving even when it was taken for granted. But that door has quietly closed. And unlike past silence, this one isn't powered by resentment, it's powered by self-respect. And that makes it unbreakable. What she's feeling now isn't confusion, it's recognition. That something about you has changed, not just your behavior, but your foundation. The version of you who once over-explained, overgave, and overstayed has dissolved. What remains is presence without pressure, distance without drama. Ask yourself, is your silence a tactic to gain leverage or a reflection of your evolution? Because when your stillness comes not from withholding, but from healing, there's no path back to the old dynamic. And that's what unsettles her most. She no longer knows how to reach a man who no longer needs to be reached. 9. Fear takes hold. This is where everything she tried to ignore finally catches up with her. At first, she missed the attention, then the consistency, but now it's something deeper. She pictures you smiling again, not the strained smile she once saw when things were unraveling, but something lighter, freer. The kind of peace a man finds when he's no longer tied to proving his worth. And the most painful part? She realizes that smile no longer includes her. It's not jealousy she feels, it's grief. Not the loud kind, but the quiet ache of knowing she's been written out of a story she never believed could continue without her. She always thought you'd be there. That no matter how far she pushed, how long she pulled away, you'd wait. You'd reach back, but you didn't. And not because you were bitter. You walked away not to hurt her, but to finally see yourself clearly, without the noise of being misunderstood. She thought time would work in her favor. That silence meant the door was cracked. But what she didn't expect was for your silence to become your home. You didn't pause your life hoping she'd return. You built something without her, something real, something she now has no map to access. And that's the moment fear takes over. Not because she lost you, but because she lost the chance to truly know the man you've become. So ask yourself, Are you finally building a life so steady that her return would only disrupt its peace? Because you didn't disappear as punishment. You disappeared to reclaim yourself. And that truth, the one she never saw coming, is what echoes in her the loudest now. Not your voice, not your presence, but your absence and what it means. 10. Powerlessness sinks in. When every attempt to regain your attention falls flat, when each breadcrumb is ignored and the old tricks lose their bite, something finally breaks inside her. Not her pride. That cracked a long time ago. What collapses now is the illusion that you'd always be reachable, that no matter what happened, some part of you would remain available to her. But this time there's no response, no reaction, no sign that you're still listening. And that silence, it doesn't just echo, it closes in. She scrolls, waits, posts, deletes, wonders, but nothing lands, nothing works, because you're no longer there to respond, and not just on the screen. Emotionally, mentally, spiritually, you've stepped outside the cycle she used to keep you trapped in. You're not unavailable out of anger. You're unavailable because you've evolved. She starts to see it wasn't a tactic. You didn't disappear to make her chase. You disappeared because you finally saw the co. When all her efforts to regain your attention fall flat, when the breadcrumbs are ignored, the subtle signals are met with silence, and the old tricks no longer stir a response, what finally sinks in is not frustration, but powerlessness. And it's not the loud kind that lashes out. It's quiet, internal, the kind that settles in when she realizes she no longer has access to the part of you she always assumed would be there. It's a different kind of loss, one that doesn't come with a dramatic ending, but with a slow, undeniable awareness. You're not hers to reach anymore, not because you blocked her, not because you hate her, but because you no longer need her validation to define your value. The door she thought she could always reopen has been closed, not out of revenge, but out of self-respect, locked not by pride, but by clarity. She starts to see that this isn't about you pulling away to prove a point. You didn't disappear to make her chase. You disappeared because you finally saw the cost of staying available to someone who only appreciated your presence once it was gone. And now, standing on the outside of your silence, she realizes something even more painful. You didn't move to hurt her. You moved to heal yourself. This is where your journey separates from hers. You're no longer reacting to her absence. You're rising within your own, not as a tactic, not as a test, but as a man who's no longer available for the cycles that once kept you small. You didn't walk away to escape her. You walked away to become you. And in that quiet departure, she sees the one thing she never expected. You're not coming back. Not because you're angry, but because you're finally free. Let me speak to you directly, man to man. If you found yourself in the middle of this storm, questioning her silence, confused by her games, doubting your worth after disappearing, hear this. It was never just about walking away. It was about waking up. You see, what you're living through isn't weakness. It's initiation, a shift from needing to be chosen to choosing yourself. And throughout everything we just walked through, her confusion, her obsession, her bait, her regret, the lesson stays the same. The moment you broke the pattern, you broke her control. But more importantly, you broke your own addiction to it. Each phase wasn't just about how she feels, it was about how you rebuild. And the question that kept surfacing wasn't, will she come back? It was, who are you becoming in the silence? You didn't go quiet to manipulate. You went quiet because words had become cheap and your presence had been underpriced. And when you finally realized that your peace wasn't negotiable, everything began to shift. So what's the real takeaway? Stop measuring your value by her reactions. Stop defining your growth by her return. The silence isn't a waiting room, it's a workshop. And every day you hold the line, you're not proving anything to her. You're proving everything to yourself. Real men don't disappear to punish, they disappear to rebuild. And when you emerge, calm, clear and untouchable, it won't be her attention that validates you. It'll be the unshakable sense that, finally, you became the man who no longer needs to be rescued from his own reflection. What you've just heard isn't just a story about her. It's a reminder of the man you were always meant to become. Not the one who chases chaos, but the one who commands peace. If this message hit home, like this video and subscribe to Stoic Station by clicking the subscribe button below. But don't leave this moment unfinished. Tap the video on the left or the right side of your screen. And keep going. One step deeper, one truth stronger. Keep walking forward. You're not lost, you're evolving.